to Healing with Human Connection, where we have encouraging conversations about tough topics such as substance abuse, drug addiction, and mental health issues for those in the Northwest Indiana area. Our hope is to share information that will guide you to resources that can help you change your life so that you can live the life you were meant to live. Check out our website, www.healingwithconnection.com, to find a full transcript of today's conversation, along with a list of any resources or links mentioned in this episode. Enjoy the show!
Hello everyone, welcome! We're so excited to be here. I'm Jeanne Cannon. I'm a licensed clinical therapist, and we have Miss Lisa Scheller, who is an author and health and recovery coach. Yes. And Stacey Garcelon, who's a therapist and also runs and started and has thrived with Anam-Cara, and that is Horses Healing the Human Soul. Very exciting. Our goal is to bring information to all of you about healing in the areas of substance abuse recovery, emotional healing, all kinds of things. We're very excited to spotlight on Stacey. And Stacey will tell us a little bit about her background. She is fabulous at what she does. We know that professionally, personally, all around the block. Stacey, tell us a little bit about who you are, I guess,
fantastic.
To start.
I'm so excited to be here. So I was born in Sacramento, California. I spent about almost 40 years there, and had a very healthy childhood. My parents are still married. It was wonderful. I did experience some trauma in my mid-teens, and then I was in a car accident, near fatal car accident. So I had some significant brain injuries. I had to be life-flighted to a trauma center. I have a scar here, and it goes around like a question mark on my skull, which I think is rather hilarious. The doctors told my parents that they didn't expect me to live, and that if I did live, I would have no memory, and I would have the intelligence of a 6-year-old for the rest of my life. I would not know who they were. They would have to teach me who they were. It was a very grim diagnosis. So I was in a coma for about 3 days, and I woke up and squeezed my dad's hand and said, "I love you, Dad."
Oh my gosh.
So that was incredibly impactful, right, for the whole family. And they did not know then, which I was 16 then, so we're not going to do the math, but it was a few years ago, several decades. But they didn't know then what they know now about brain science and neuroplasticity and how the brain heals. And I'm grateful for that. Between that time and just recently, a lot has happened. Mm-hmm. I ended up graduating high school, and my career started with the state of California, and I went into social work. I worked my way up. I didn't get my bachelor's until I was an adult. So I got my bachelor's in human services, and I worked for Department of Social Services and child welfare. We did wonderful things about trying to improve the child welfare system, because we all know that it's broken, and Child and Family Services Review, and doing some peer quality case reviews in different counties and that sort of thing. So that was very rewarding. I got to meet a lot of people in child welfare, from the youth to child welfare directors to lots of different impactful things. And then life took a turn, and California economy went the way it went. And my parents had previously moved to Texas about a decade before this, and so I thought, signs point to Texas. I wrapped up my little family and we moved to Texas. There I entered into social work again, did child welfare. Then my marriage took a hit. I was married to an addict and alcoholic. It got really violent. It was really difficult. I was drinking as well, so I'm also in recovery. And it's really, really difficult for the whole family to have 2 caretakers that are using. Lots of things happened there. And when I started my own recovery and journey process, I decided that, and the divorce too, was the healthiest thing for our family. So when I decided that, I looked at things and I thought, I'm going to have to work a lot longer than I thought I would. Texas didn't recognize civil service, so I had to start at the entry level and work my way back up. And I thought, this is taking too long to be back at a position that I was at.
Entry level.
Yeah. So I thought, I'm going to get my master's degree. And if I'm going to get my master's degree, I want to get it in something that I want to do. Because I was getting a little burned out. It's a very difficult, the people are fabulous, but it's a very difficult system to be in. I remember very, very clearly, I was at my friend Sharon's farm in California. This was before I moved to Texas. She was giving me riding lessons. I was in therapy at the time. And I remember tacking up the horse, and I was brushing this horse. And I just looked over and I said, Sharon, this is the best therapy ever. And that stuck with me. You know, when I started looking back at what kind of master's degree I wanted to have, I looked into counseling and social work, and then I found equine assisted psychotherapy. This is even before I finished my master's degree. I signed up for it. I'm like, let's just do it. Right. So I started that process, and that just came to life for me.
So it's therapy with horses.
Yep, it's equine assisted psychotherapy. All the work we do is on the ground, so there's no riding involved. Which originally I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to ride. Yeah. But as I got further into it, I've started realizing the therapeutic value of having a horse present. Just being in the presence of a horse, the neuroscience around that is the horse's nervous system helps our nervous system co-regulate. Our heart rate and our breathing will synchronize with the horse. So they have a natural ability of calming us. And then we can turn inward into what's going on with us. When I'm on the back of the horse, my focus is different.
Sure.
You know, I'm safety and wear my heels.
Right.
And, you know, there's wonderful things about horseback riding and therapeutic riding. And from where I'm coming from, the connection first needs to happen on the ground. So that's where we start.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, can I just say thank you, Stacey, for telling us about your whole background. Oh my gosh.
I'm like, I don't know how much to go into.
Such a sweet person, but it's, I think, helpful for us and helpful for the audience to know what you've been through. And all of us have had personal experiences with alcoholism and some substance abuse.
And that's part of why I share my story is because, you know, alcoholism and drug addiction, they know no socioeconomic boundaries is across the board.
Nice people,
not so nice people, but this is what I've learned. Even the not so nice people, they're coming from a wounded place. Right. You know, they're hurting. Right. And so while we have to have boundaries and that's not an accessible way to treat me, I can also have compassion for you. And I can also hold space for you in a healthy way.
And it's breaking some of that generational traditions of how people disciplined or how people dealt with their problems and things like that. So we only know what we know.
Right. And there's science behind what happens to our brains. I remember in grad school, I was here in Indiana. I moved here about 7 years ago. So I was still in grad school. And I remember reading about the brain and how the brain heals from trauma and plasticity. And I went to my parents, I said, you have to read this. It talks about how when people have experienced trauma, the very function of our brain changes. So Dan Siegel's hand model, the brain is like this, and the amygdala is right in here. The amygdala is our fight or flight response. It gets bigger in size. So as it and the diencephalon get bigger in size, for those of us that have experienced trauma, something has to recede. What has to recede is the thinking brain. Doesn't mean we're any less smart. All of our smarts are still there. What changes is when something runs by our leg and sends an electronic impulse up our spinal cord through our brainstem and up to our amygdala, that electronic impulse has more space it has to travel through before it gets to the thinking brain. So our brainstem, which is responsible for all the things that keep us alive without conscious thought, heart rate, breathing, that says there's a delay. I need to keep the body safe. Sends a message, and I'm really oversimplifying this, but sends a message to the amygdala and diencephalon that it starts muscle memory. What worked last time? Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And that goes into motion. By the time that electronic impulse gets to our thinking brain, we've already committed to a course of action. We've already yelled, cursed, slammed doors, left, whatever that is. And then we're like, oh my gosh, it was a dog. I really like dogs. I can't believe I behaved that way. So now there's that whole guilt and shame that repeats itself. When I read that and I went to my parents, I'm like, this explains my 20s. Like, this explains so much.
So you're saying because when someone has trauma, the trauma of anything, be it an accident or abuse,
sexual assault, and really
substance abuse.
And the thing with substance abuse, if you didn't have trauma before you entered into addiction, you have trauma because of it.
And what you're saying is our thinking brain doesn't work right?
No, our thinking brain still works.
Okay.
It still works just fine. All the smarts are there. All of their intelligence is there. That impulse that sends from our body up to our brain is delayed in getting to our thinking brain. So our survival brain, our lower part of our brain, is keeping us alive. So it's saying, we can't wait. We have to respond in what worked last time.
So the problem with that is that we do old behavior that's negative.
Right. Our trauma response is either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And whatever worked last time or whatever our lower region of our brain has determined the best course of survival, that goes into effect. And so by the time our thinking brain catches up,
Oh,
we've already
negative
committed
behavior.
it. What we've learned with 30 years of trauma research is we can help that amygdala and diencephalon return to its original size. And it's amazing. So once we get the whole body involved in healing the brain, it's not even healing the brain. The brain wants to heal. It's the brain doing it, but giving it the opportunity and the resources it needs in order to do that.
So to make different choices.
It's before we make choices, because that's a cognitive thought, right? So it's start to getting in touch with what our body is telling us and giving our body short, small, felt sense of safety. So introducing this is, I feel safe here. By being intentional. So the two things that really help the brain is a sense of curiosity and a sense of self-compassion.
Right. That is when we talk about having a problem and trying a million things for a lot of years to fix it and we fail.
Right.
There's a reason. There's a reason.
And I love cognitive behavioral therapy. It's wonderful. What we've learned over 30 years of trauma research is that cognition and insight alone does not resolve the trauma symptoms. It doesn't resolve the heart palpitations. Our body is trying to keep us alive. So our nervous system is on high alert. I can understand cognitively that when I hear a siren, I'm okay. Right? Cognitively.
Right.
But my body goes, like this. So until I start to integrate a whole body reaction and let my body experience safety, I will likely still have that response.
What you're saying is if we can understand what our body's trying to tell us, that will help us.
Yeah. And having that sense of curiosity, like we had mentioned in previous sessions, what works for me might not work for you.
Sure.
Because we've all experienced different things.
Right. Trauma to one is not trauma to another.
This is so interesting because it's back to educating people, to get them to have an understanding that they are okay. We are okay.
And we're not stupid.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, but how that brain works. I have ulcerative colitis, and that's a gut thing. So I've learned over the years that my gut is my second brain. What I put into my gut is going to be how my brain goes. So it's trying to identify those things that work within your body and to be intentional or mindful of what's happening and then being able to change that.
Absolutely. And so we incorporate horses and we invite horses to be part of the therapy team. They help us experience this felt sense of safety. And we use all 5 senses in the process. And so one of the things I love about the experience with the horse and being able to share that with others is that people will often forget what is said in a traditional talk therapy, but they will never forget the experience with the horse.
Wow. And how it made them feel.
And how it made them feel and how the horse chooses to engage with them or not.
Stacey, that is so very interesting. And there's so many things you do. Tell us a little bit about the veterans and the teens focus.
Oh, fantastic. Yes. We specialize in trauma-focused equine-assisted psychotherapy, which is inviting horses to be part of the treatment team. And so we have programs for veterans in which they can come and hang out with horses and other veterans. And it's not therapy. It's really just a time to just be supported by other veterans, particularly in a world where civilians don't get it.
Yes.
You know, and I'm a civilian, so it is facilitated by a Marine veteran. I think it's very important that a peer support group is led by a peer in that culture. I did do my internship with the South Bend Vet Center because veterans are near and dear to my heart. My dad's Air Force Reserves veteran and have loved veterans in my life and what they've contributed for our countries. Wanted to make sure that I was able to help in that regard. And I knew going into this field that I couldn't get that cultural competency piece without actually diving in and doing that. I had a great, fantastic mentor, Steve Liebman at the Vet Center. So I was able to get a deeper understanding of the culture and realize that civilians, as much as we try and love and want to help, we aren't a veteran. And so it's really important to honor that space. And we do that by offering Fall In Fridays once a month that veterans can come and just hang out with other veterans. And depending on who comes, sometimes we have a gentleman that will come and play the bagpipes while we lower the flag, and it's just wonderful.
The veteran who maybe horses is not your thing still can come and join in the group and not be around.
Not be around the horses. I had a veteran, really big guy with broad shoulders goes, I don't trust anything with two eyes on the side of its face.
Okay. All right. We understand.
Something for everyone,
That's
right?
okay. And how about the teens?
We have teen groups that come from a residential treatment facility. They come an hour each way. Spend an hour and a half, 2 hours with the horses and us. We do activities in which we help them regulate their nervous system, and then we invite them to engage with the horses. And how the horses show up and meet them where they're at is just amazing to me. It's just amazing. The sessions are always facilitated with a licensed mental health provider and an equine specialist, because it's ethically the appropriate thing to do. The equine specialist is someone who knows the herd and knows horse behavior. They're making sure that the horses are also not mentally drained, right? And also watching herd dynamics, so the mental health professional can be fully present to the client, right? So our attention is not divided. Right. But the kids are so fantastic. I always ask two questions. One is, what did the horses teach you about you today? And then the second question is, what did the horses teach you about each other today? And so across groups I hear, well, we don't have to actually like each other in order to get along.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, whoa.
We teach the world that.
I was just going to say.
I'm like, there are adults that don't know that.
Right.
You know? And then I have other kids that will say, and they're being vulnerable around their peers that they don't always get along. And they'll say, well, I learned that I am lovable. I learned that I can calm myself down. Those are powerful things to realize that about themselves and have that empowerment. And so it's a wonderful way to be involved. And it's also something that I can teach in the therapy office, but it doesn't have the same effect because it's another adult telling them something. Whereas with the horses, they get to discover that on their own.
And it's an experience.
It's an experience.
You know, some people, they can just learn from a book, or they can just learn to apply things, where I want to be able to experience, feel it, touch it, see it.
And it's incorporating all five senses. They don't forget the experience with the horse.
Well, Stacey, it's all so fascinating. And I know this is the tip of the iceberg of what happens with Stacey and her group. So if you're interested, how do people contact you, Stacey?
You can contact me on phone, 219-207-7222, or online. It's www.anamkarastables.org.
Well, it's such a delight, Stacey. We really could talk forever, honestly. It's so very fascinating. So if you're listening and some of this is clicking with you, please reach out. Either reach out to us or someone in your community. And as we say, the healing begins when we love ourselves, when we cut ourselves some slack. And loving ourselves first empowers us to get stronger and healthier. So have a wonderful week. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, let us know by leaving a comment or review and sharing with a friend. All resources mentioned today and a full transcript of this episode can be found by going to our website, www.healingwithconnection.com. A video of this recording can be found on our YouTube channel, and the audio podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Healing with Connection is a collaborative project created by Lisa Scheller, Jeanne and Stacey Garcelon, produced and edited by Megan Swartz.